members who turned 65, and half of our congregation was over there. So we didn't know who would show up, and we're so glad. It's wonderful that you were drawn here. Some of you for your first time, some of you for your fourth time, and some of you for your 300th time. It's really wonderful. Someone at the party said, well, you have to go back to work. I said, no, it's not work. You know, when we're doing what we love and we're being together, it's really a service for our community and for each and every one of us, and it doesn't feel like it's work in that way. Although it is a lot of work.
And then Rabbi, you know, some of them were trying to get us to stay and just Zoom from there.
Right, yeah, they were saying, why don't you Zoom? I said, well, no, we're not gonna.
We have to be here. Oh, come on, you can just Zoom in.
Yeah, what a different world it is. Huh?
That happened to be our president.
So let's take a nice deep breath of Shabbat air, breathing in this beautiful fall weather with the sunshine, and breathing out all the angst for the week, all that stuff that collects with us from the news or from our life, all the stuff we want to get rid of. May we fully be present here today, find enjoyment in one another, love in one another, companionship, friendship, and may this be a place of safety that all of us can refresh ourselves as we all need to do. So we have an opening song, Shalom Aleichem. We already got some beautiful songs with Boi Kala, that's a wonderful one, and Haveinu Shalom Aleichem. We are going to begin with a different Shalom Aleichem. You did Haveinu Shalom Aleichem. So
we just sang that. That's
So this is the original Shalom Aleichem. I don't know.
Yeah. The Haveinu Shalom Aleichem. Did you sing that in camp and everything?
I don't think so. I don't think they sang that one. I only learned it from you, I think.
Oh.
Yeah, it's a beautiful one.
Yeah. Okay. Right. Huh. And did you do the wackadoo in between the verses? Usually there's Haveinu Shalom Aleichem, wackadoo, but I didn't do it tonight. So I'm wondering if it was anybody else's minhag to do that.
Well, wait a second. We have a newcomer, Eric, who came from Eisner camps, right? He was telling me.
Did you do that?
It was ooh-ah at Eisner.
Ooh-ah. I think at Kutz they would do ooh-ah. Yeah.
Wonderful. So we're going to do Shalom Aleichem, the original, my grandmother's favorite, page 142. That does go back to Sinai, 142, and our Mishkan Tefillah we're using. And we welcome everyone, by the way, whether you're joining us virtually or in person.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hasharet, Malachei Elyon, Nimelech, Malachei Hamelachim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Bohel Shalom, Malachei Hashalom, Malachei Elyon.
May the angels of Shabbat reside on our shoulders, giving us lots of massages this Shabbat and allowing us to fully rest, to find that sense of peace and rest. We're going to turn to candle lighting on page 120, and I've asked my good friend Karen Lowenthal to lead us, or to light the candles. Karen is a wonderful healthcare provider in our community. We owe her a debt of gratitude for all the wonderful work she does over at Buffalo General, especially in these times. Asher Shana Vitzivanu Likner Shel Shabbat. May the candles of Shabbat light our way into Shabbat. Karen, if you want to lift the Kiddush cup there, Kiddush is on page 123. And there's no holidays today, just a regular Shabbat Kiddush.
Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav, v'ratavanu, v'shabbat kodesho, v'ahava uv'ratzon, hinchilanu, zikaron lemaseh bereshit, ki hu yom tekilah lemikra'ei kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim, kivanu v'charta, v'otanu kidashta, mikol ha'arim, v'shabbat kodsheka, v'ahava uv'ratzon, hinchaltanu, Baruch atah Adonai, Mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. L'chaim, to life. Let's turn to, thank you, Karen. Let's turn to page 124. And at the top of the page, I think it's a reading I haven't done before, so let's read it all together. We enter the sanctuary to welcome Shabbat. Within these walls, we sit surrounded by numberless generations. Our ancestors built the synagogue as a visible sign of God's presence in their midst. Throughout our long history and our endless wanderings, it has endured, a beacon of truth, love, and justice for all humanity. Its presence guided our ancestors to lives of righteousness, holding up to them a vision of their truest selves. Now we, in turn, come into the sanctuary to affirm the sacredness of our lives. May we enter this place in peace. May holiness wrap around us as we cross its threshold. Weariness, doubt, the flaws within our human hearts, the harshness of the weak, let these drop away at the door. In the brightness of Shabbat, let peace settle upon us as we lift our hearts in prayer. Well, that's a very beautiful one. Let's turn to L'chadodi as we officially welcome Shabbat into the room, page 138. We're going to sing the first and the last verse. On the last verse, number 9, we rise and face the doorway over there. We'll bow to the Shabbat bride as she comes in, and then we welcome one another by waving at each other.
Shabbat lekabela, lecha dodi likrakala, yalala, 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 Shabbat nekabela lechadoti likrakala yadanai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela boi v'shalom ateret bala gam b'simcha u'v'tzahola tov yebonei amas hikula boi kala lechadoti likrakala yadanai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela lechadoti likrakala yadanai 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 Pnei Shabbat nekabela.
And we remain standing, and I think it's time to open our ark as well. We'll leave that part up. We remain standing for the Baruch Hu, our call of community, page 146.
Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach Le'olam Vaed.
We remain standing, page 148, with a special song that Cantor has prepared. 148.
It's a beautiful English interpretation of the Ma'ariv Aravim that you'll find on page 148. You can follow along with the Hebrew and the English. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim bechokma poteh she'arim God of creation, who makes the evening fall from light into darkness with the setting of the sun. You unfold the heavens with brilliant moon and stars and wrap our souls with peace. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bivaro ma'ariv aravim bechokma poteh she'arim Baruch atah
Let's look at the bottom of the page. There's a beautiful reading having to do with creation that we just read last week. The darkness of the first day differed from the darkness that preceded creation. The root of ma'ariv can also mean mix, suggesting God mixed light into the primordial darkness. And this is the beautiful part. The tiniest spark of light can transform darkness. How beautiful. And when we lose hope, just that little bit of light, we turn to page 152, 153 for the Shema.
Shema Yisrael
may be seated. We continue with the Via Hafta on page 154.
בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מיותיך והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברתם בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות ידיך היו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם המזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
On page 157, as we head towards election season, this is one of my favorite readings to inspire us in this time. Together at the top. Standing on the parted shores of history, we still believe what we were taught before ever we stood at Sinai's foot, that wherever we go, it is eternally Egypt, that there is a better place, a promised land, that the winding way to that promise passes through the wilderness, that there is no way to get from here to there except by joining hands and marching together. We turn to a prayer, page 160, a prayer for peace in this evening time, Hashkivenu.
So all the way at the bottom of the Hebrew, we see the Chatima, the blessing, the final blessing for this prayer. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim. Blessed are you, Adonai, guardian of Israel, whose shelter of peace is spread over us, over all your people Israel, and over Jerusalem. And you remember we sang this song during Sukkot, Haparei Sukat Shalom. It's just this, literally these 3 lines there in the Hebrew by Jeffrey Klepper. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael ve'al Yerushalayim ve'al kol amo ve'al Yerushalayim everyone. Baruch atah Adonai haporei sukat shalom shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael shalom aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael. I hope that becomes regular for us.
It'll bring Sukkot into the every Shabbat. And this is probably the last week we'll have these beautiful decorations here. So.
I think we're going through, are we going through Thanksgiving?
That's a great idea. Let's just keep them.
That's what I heard. We were going through November, but Thanksgiving is all the way the end of November. Well, there's nothing to spoil here, and it'd be beautiful for Thanksgiving too. Let's have a show of hands. Who wants it for Thanksgiving?
Oh, look at that. That's the style with decorations. They take so much to put up, people just like to keep them for a long time. Why not? Exactly. Now, when it gets to Hanukkah time or Passover, it got to Passover, we'd be in big trouble, right?
Forget about that.
All right, we're going to turn to 162, thinking about the delight of Shabbat at the bottom, Yismechu.
ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. ישמחו במלכותך, שומרי, שומרי, שומרי שבת וקוראי עונג שבת. מקדשי שבי
invite you to rise. The Amidah, the standing prayer, is on page 164 if you're able, or you could just lift up your legs. We are going to continue in the Hebrew or the English, or just your private prayers through page 180, and whenever you're ready, you may be seated. And we continue with a prayer for peace, O says Shalom, page 180.
Say shalom bimrama, say shalom aleinu, ve'alka Yisrael, ve'imru imru amen. Oh, say shalom bimrama. Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael, Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael. Yaseh Shalom, Yaseh Shalom, Shalom Aleinu, Yaakov Yisrael.
So we turn to our prayer of healing on page 371, the Misha Berach. Just a brief reflection. I've been rereading Chaim Potak's The Chosen. How many of you read that before? I've read it several times. Amazing book. Chaim Potak is from Philadelphia, or lived for, I think he wrote his book actually in Philadelphia. And his children went to my school. So he was kind of part of our community. And it's such a vivid book. But one of the things he described is about recovering from sickness. The main character is just a teenager, 15-year-old, Ruvain Malter. He gets hit in the eye and has a glass piece that enters his eye. And for about 5 or 6 days, he's in the hospital. And back then, they had a whole ward, and he's sitting with all of patients he doesn't know, and they're kind of bonding with each other. And then he gets out of the hospital, and he says, I never knew that the street was so beautiful. Everything becomes more beautiful. And I think we can all relate to us, whether we're feeling good and in great health or we're not. It's really not something to take for granted, just to be able to arrive into the sanctuary. So many of our members aren't able to be here. It's part of the reason why we have our streaming service. And it's a way of saying, it's okay, even if you can't make it, if we can give you just a little bit, if we can help you along that way, and God willing, you'll come back to us. So as we say our prayers, let's just think about that fragility of our lives. I'm going to read our list of names, and if you'd like to offer anyone out loud, feel free to just raise your hand. I'll go around. If you want to hold names in your heart, that's okay as well, and then we'll sing the prayer together. As a community, we are holding Rachel Anderson, Lynn Bass, Mark Clay, Eli Burgum, Gary Bernstein, Stephen Bernstein, Joseph Dash, Drew Demowitz, Father Joyfish, Gary Filipponi, Sue Frank, Antonio Franzen, Leslie Garfinkel, Marlene Glickman, Rochelle Goodman, Sharon Gray, Irene Green, Dennis Halpin, Hillary Hurwitz, Paula Jones, Bharat Kelly, Ken Kellick, Jill Kalaga, Gail Lewis, Joe Malucci, Patricia Newton, Jill Shire, Monahan, Ann Oppenheim, Cheryl Rossi, Brandon Ryan, Joyce Seitz, Carol Silverman, William Scretney, Nicholas Warren Tepper, Adam Tinlin, Kristen Walker, Anita Wiesel, Mike Wheeler, Christine Zalowiski, Avraham ben Rivka, Aviva bat Shoshana, and Chana Ezra ben Shul. We're holding all of them in prayer. If there's other names, just raise your hand.
Speaker Pelosi's husband, and Rabbi Jonathan Schnitzer.
Bert Friedman, Madeline Scott.
Laurie Curtis, Michael Bernstein, and Melissa Solomon.
Andrew Caton and Lori Jordan.
Megan Schuster and Emma Rutherford.
Ruth Skiba.
Joan Alexander and Lisa Steinfeld and Barbara.
Emily Blair.
And also had Connie Heitner, who came back home after successful surgery, so we're also sending prayers to her as well. Again, the prayer is on page 371. Complete healing of body and soul. May our prayers go out to those in need, both those in our room and outside of our room, and may they know how important they are to us, and may we all feel comforted in knowing that we are not facing our challenges alone. Look at that.
Yeah, that'll be okay for now, right?
I'm gonna move it a little bit. Okay. Shabbat Shalom. All right, if I was going to ask you a question about this week's portion, let's see how well you do. And I'm going to say, Harvey, don't answer right away. How old?
You got more length.
Oh, I got more length. I can even go. Look at that.
There you go.
If I was going to ask you, how old was Noah? How many people do you think would say 100, between 100 and 200? Oh, you guys are good. Between 200 and 300. 300 and 400? Oh my gosh, we got a whole bunch of Harveys in this room. 400 and 500? Look, Eli's face is going, what? 500 and 600? We're not there yet. 700 and 800? You're getting close. 900 and 1,000. That's what it was. These aren't real numbers, but it is amazing to think Noah was supposedly 960 years old. There are actually only two people within biblical tradition that were older. You probably know the oldest, Methuselah, right? And then Jared was the other one. He lived 962 years, and I think Methuselah 969 years. So they were all within, they could have been in school together, I think, right? So it's amazing when you think about Noah's life and his journey, that there are really the three parts. The before, which the only part of before that we know about is the building of the ark. There is the during, 40 days or 150 days, depending on how you read the text. And then there is the after. There is no other part of his life, 40 days out of 960 years. There is something about that that rings true. When major events happen in our life revolves around them. There is the before, the during, and the after. This past Saturday night, I went to the fundraiser for the NAACP. It's a wonderful organization. If you have a chance to ever go to, it was down in the convention center. It's a wonderful, they had a terrific speaker and some 300, 400 people out there. It was really wonderful to see a lot of friends and familiar faces there. But one of the speakers, Thomas Buford, he's from the Urban League. And the Urban League, if you're not familiar, I just learned about it myself, does so much work within the community, not just the Black community, but helping support careers, helping to support pregnancies, a whole variety of things. It's quite amazing what they do. I guess it's sort of like a Jewish Family Service that offers so many different types of activities, and it goes back all the way to the 1920s here. But he said something as he got up to speak. He was introducing one of the awardees, and he said, when you think about 514, and they talk about it now, 514. So if you hear it, that's kind of the lingo, May 14th, 514. There is the before, 513, and then there's the after, 515. Each of those days is so distinct, right? The 513, before we knew what was going to happen on 514, when we were still had a naivete, when the world was broken, but we didn't realize maybe how broken it was, when our lives were one way, but we didn't realize what they would become. There's the attack on 514, the transformation, the horror, the terror of that moment. And then there's 515, picking up the pieces. So many things are like that, that when we have those moments, and here in the Jewish community, I mention this because this week we had the 4th anniversary of Tree of Life. 4 years ago. It feels like decades ago, to be honest. It feels so long ago because you have to reach back before the pandemic. The pandemic already warped all of our sense of time. But if you think back to October 27th, which was yesterday, 4 years ago, it was a Shabbat at the time, that was a moment that changed everything for the Jewish community. Before 1027, we didn't have police officers in front of our buildings, security plans, elaborate ways to handle. Actually, we had already started because the people, there's a wonderful documentary now on HBO if you want to take a look. I watched about half of it. It really is so eerily familiar. I think every Jewish community has that sense when they interview all the different people that were survivors of the attack and congregants in the synagogue, and you could pull out Shir Shalom, you could pull out Bez Zion, you could pull out Bez Seder. It's all familiar faces. The only difference is they're rooting for the Steelers, we're rooting for the Bills. But there is that sense of before, during, and after. How do we hold that? How do we not, like Noah, get caught in a sense where the whole entire life is defined by those 40 days? How do we both recognize and celebrate the before and not live in fear of it? How do we acknowledge that day? Because the flood, when we're talking about the flood, it's impossible to understand the horror that poor Noah had to live through. As you know, how could you even live? The very first thing he does, he doesn't even want to get off the ark, because getting off the ark means seeing the destruction. Getting off the ark means finding a world that is destroyed. And he has to live in that world, not for 1 year, 2 years, but for hundreds of years. So there is really a sense that we can really relate to him. We don't want to trap Noah on that ark. We want to allow him to go. We want healing to go. I think being here and reflecting back on Tree of Life and being so raw here, and we were contacted, by the way, shortly after, in the first couple days. If you know, we have a member, Diane Simons. Her son, Ron Simons, is over there in Pittsburgh, and he was part of the repair effort. He wasn't at the Tree of Life. He was at I think, the Jewish Community Center at the time, and he helped the healing. And there's actually an organization that comes and they heal. And he connected me to the wonderful organization, a couple of women who lost people in Tree of Life. And they actually reach out around the world in different disasters like they've had, different terrorist-style attacks like they faced. And they told me a number of things. First of all, in the immediate, there's really nothing to do except for hold each other. We can't fix the situation on day one. We just need to hold each other. And then, as it unfolds, there's, that, just like in Judaism, that first 30 days. They said, we're really not going to contact or do anything until then. But in addition to that, there's levels of survivors, and we've seen that too, which is very complicated. There's the people that were in that room at the NAACP event. They had about 7 or 8 of the survivors that were there, and the families of the people that were murdered on that day. And that is a different group. That's a group that almost, their suffering is so great and immense and personal, it's almost separate from other suffering. Then there is the group that's in the store, that suffered, or in the synagogue, the survivors, the people that witnessed, but maybe not directly affected as much. Or maybe they went to the store on a regular basis and it hits home so dearly. But then there is most of us, which is the extended network, people that it will affect, that it still has an immense effect upon and changes our behavior and our thoughts. And each of these have different ways of coping. Each of them have a different way of processing. I think the lesson of Noah, the very first thing that he does when he comes off, do you know what he does? He plants a vineyard. And I think, in a way, this is the most heartbreaking part of the story. It always breaks my heart because he needs to numb the pain. That's kind of what I always associated. I said, he needs to get off, and he needs something to take away this immense pain. There's no way, he just can't live in it as this survivor. But then I realized, as I was preparing for tonight, there's another reason that he plants a vineyard, and we all need to plant a vineyard for this reason. He plants a vineyard so he can have wine for his rituals. Wine is ritual. Ritual is our way of human beings of coping with uncertainty, coping with death, coping with destruction like he faced. So I'm going to think about it differently because I always just felt so badly for him, and I understood. I always said, please forgive Noah. He needed to do this. But now I'm realizing he needed to do it for a different reason. And so tonight I'm going to share a ceremony we did. Temple Bassetic, my friend and colleague Adam Rosenbaum, put these together. If you got little sheets with you. We did this with Federation Agency Gathering yesterday morning. I thought it was quite beautiful, and I handed it over to Joanne to make Xeroxes for us tonight. So I thank Rabbi Rosenbaum, wherever you are, for putting this together. And we'll do this. It's not the 4th anniversary today, but it was yesterday, and today is the 4th anniversary of the day after, which is also important. Today marks the 4th anniversary of the deadliest attack on the Jewish community in American history, the mass shooting at Tree of Life Synagogue in Pittsburgh. On that Shabbat morning, Robert Bowers opened fire upon congregants while they worshiped, killing 11, wounding 6. Authorities later found virulent anti-Semitic, xenophobic, anti-immigrant posts on Bowers' social media profiles. And anti-Semitic statements and acts of destruction continue to rise in the United States and throughout the world. We can ill afford to think of this attack as isolated. To the contrary, we're responsible to call out all instances of discrimination and hate and to speak and act proudly of our Jewish identity. Our very future depends on it. And let's read these names together, focusing on these 4 years after, even if we mispronounce some of the names, the 11 people killed. Joyce Feinberg, Richard Gottfried, Rose Mallinger, Jerry Rubinowitz, Cecil and David Rosenthal, Bernice and Sylvan Simon, Daniel Stein, Melvin Wax, Irvin Younger. And we'll read from the Psalms. Hear my voice, Adonai, at daybreak. At daybreak I plead before you and wait, for you are not a God that desires wickedness. Evil cannot abide with you. Wanted men cannot endure in your sight. You detest all evildoers. You doom those who speak lies. Adonai abhors murderous, deceitful men. But I, through your abundant love, enter your house. I bow down in awe at your holy temple. And we'll do Mourner's Kaddish later for our own yard sites, but if you'd like to rise, if it's your custom, we'll do it together just for those over a Tree of Life, and we'll also add 514 in there. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei rabbah, v'alma divrach chirtei v'yamlik malchutei, v'chayachon v'yamachon v'chayei dechol beit Yisrael, b'agalav v'yisman kariv yimru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah mevorach le'olam olmeo maya, yitparak v'yishtabak v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitalev v'yitalal shmei dekudusha b'rechu, Leila min kol birchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'yimru amen. Yehei shlom rabba min shemaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'yimru amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'yimru amen. You may be seated. May the memories be for a blessing. Let's see if I can do this. Okay. All right, so Cantor's prepared a very special song for this. Before we do it, we have two members that are heading off to Israel, so this is a dual purpose. We have Howard and Karen over there, if you can just rise for a second. They're going on a program called SAR-El, which is Volunteers for Israel, and if you're not familiar, it's a wonderful program. You go and you serve maybe the Israeli army or in a kibbutz, and you do the good work. And I know this is their first time doing it, so we wish them a safe Nisiat Tova. May this be the experience you've been hoping for. May you come back with plenty of stories, and may you be healthy and happy in doing all your work. Thank you. So you may be seated, and I'll turn it over to Cantor for the special song for this.
It's actually, the reason for this also is threefold, like the threefold blessing, which we have in there afterwards, so we can have them stand up again and we could bless them. Or anyone else in the audience who wants to be blessed. My girlfriend, who I speak to a few times a week, she's a cantorial friend. We always prepare music together. It was just, I don't remember how many years ago. What year was Hurricane Sandy? 2012. So this is the actual anniversary of Sandy, and her synagogue was practically destroyed. It was out her synagogue is out in Long Island, and everything was underwater, and they had to save the Torahs and everything. So not only is it Parsha Noach, but it is also the anniversary of Hurricane Sandy. And in this piece, a number of times we speak about storms. This is a setting of the priestly benediction, Ruach Elohim by Lisa Levine. So would you like to?
Is it part of the priestly
Yes,
blessing
it's
goes
right in
first?
there. It's right in there. You
Okay,
can say
so
the
we're going to
English
invite you to
afterwards.
rise, and anyone else that wants a priestly blessing.
Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you. Ruach Elohim, keep you safe from harm. every storm. Yivarechecha Adonai v'yishmerecha, Yair Adonai panav elecha v'yikudecha, Yisa Adonai panav elecha v'yasem lecha shalom. Ruach Elohim, may God bless you and keep you, bring you to the light and safe from harm. May the love of friends be your shelter from every storm. Ruach Elohim, may God's Spirit be with you, bring you to the light and loving arms. Together we will be a shelter from every storm. Together we will be a shelter from every storm.
May it be so. We're actually going to have everyone rise as we go to Aleinu 586, and I'm going to open our ark.
עלינו לשבח אדוננו, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הרצון, ולא עשנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המועדם, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא.
Page 591.
ונאמר והיה אדוני המלך על כל הארץ היום ההוא היום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד ושמו 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 אחד.
You may be seated. We turn now to the Mourner's Kaddish on page 598. We had several losses in our community this week. Sonia Breitbart and Donald Sirota. Our thoughts and prayers are with the families. On our Shloshim list from this past month, we remember Grace Grulick and Janet Sirota. On our Yahrzeit list from years past, and we welcome all those who've come to observe Yahrzeit, we are thinking about Ida Benson, Philip Bookbinder, Belle Chazen, Rebecca Cohen, Felix Dudek, Nancy Frankfurt, Jack Friedferdig, Bessie Fudeman, Anne E. Godshell, Dora Goodman, Rose Gummins, Daniel Seth Homeland, Maximilian Huttner, Roy Jacobson, Simon Cariff, Anita Bernstein Lannard, Gail Jacobson Lang, William Lesser, Alan Lieberman, Phyllis Littman, Arnold Lowenthal, Jack Mackler, William Olbert, Rachel Posner, Edna Raphael, Morris Revo, Harry S. Rubin, Neil Rudin, Harold S. Russlander, Richard Russlander, Sylvia Adler Sapphire, Max Schmeidler, Sam Sirota, Carl Silbert, David Paul Sipes, Herbert Slater, Leah Tepper, Irving Weiner, Benny Weissman, and Bernard Zinderman. If there's other names you'd like to mention? Yes, Diane?
George Partridge.
All those whose custom it is to rise, page 598. Yitkadal, v'yitkadash, shemei rabbah, v'yalma divrach irte, v'yamlik malchute, v'chayachon, v'yamachon, v'chayed echol beit Yisrael, v'agalau, v'zman kariv, v'yamru amen. Yehei shmei rabbah, v'varach, li'olam olmei almaya, yitbarak, v'yishabak, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudashah, b'rechu, Le'alamin kol berchata v'shirata, tush b'chata v'nechamata, damiran v'alma v'imru amen. Yehi shlam rabba min shemaya, chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Oseh shalom v'imru amav, hu yaseh shalom, aleinu v'al kol Yisrael v'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru amen. May the one who creates harmony on high bring peace to all Israel, to all the world, and we say amen.
Amen.
You may be seated. Zikronam livracha. May their memories be for a blessing. Just by the way, some of you aren't familiar, after where I say V'al kol Yisrael, we say V'al kol yoshvei tevel, that means all the inhabitants of the world. And it's become pretty standard. When this Siddur came out, it hadn't been standardized quite yet. And so, but if you go throughout the liberal Jewish world, you'll hear that quite a bit. I'm going to call over Joanne Marcusy, our executive director, to offer the announcements.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone. Good to see you all. Mazel Tov to Jonah Nissengard and his family on his upcoming bar mitzvah tomorrow morning. And I'd like to thank our service greeters tonight, Marcia Bougie and Mark Nightinger. We really appreciate your help. A very special thank you to Rabbi Alex, Cantor Frank, and Nick Stelzer for a lovely service in honor of Shabbat. Our virtual offerings on Saturday are Torah study at 9 a.m. via Zoom, and the Shabbat morning service and bar mitzvah of Jonah Nissengard at 10:30 in person and via Boxcast, Facebook, and YouTube. And our website should have the links. And our Women of Shir Shalom are having their paid-up luncheon on Sunday, which will include the drawing of the beautiful quilt made by our very own Judy Stern. And if you have made a reservation, we look forward to seeing you there. We would also like to thank Jill Hamilton for leading our Women of Shir Shalom discussion group last night. The topic was interfaith relationships. If you're interested in participating next time, please let Jill know. The next meeting will be on January 26th at 7 p.m. via Zoom. And Shavetas is back. We have 2 more Shavetas before winter sets in. The next one is on November 15th, which is a Tuesday, from 4 p.m. until sold out. And you can already place your order online and save $1. And the women of Shir Shalom are very busy right now. And they have a lot going on. They're also doing a Becker Farms fundraiser, which they've done the last couple of years, with pies and fudge, and the order form is online, or you can print it out and send it in, and their food is really good. And gather your rummage. The rummage sale is coming on Sunday, November 7th, from 9 to 1:30. If you're able to donate any items or would like to volunteer, please see Julia or Jill. And there's an upcoming events section in your leaflet, and we put some other events in there. Feel free to take it home so you have the dates. And if you need anything, feel free to reach out to Rabbi, Cantor, Todd, Bruce, or myself. We're here for you. And Shabbat Shalom. Please
Shabbat Shalom.
help yourself to our oneg.
A couple of announcements. First of all, The Chosen, the play, it got waylaid. There was sickness, so it won't start till next week. But our little Max Goldhirsch, well, not so little anymore. He'll be in there. I'm going to be part of a panel discussion with Einav Simons on November 8th in the evening. I think it's around 6:30. So if you're interested, we're just going to be talking about the play. Also, we have voting coming up. We encourage everyone to vote. There is early voting. I was looking at the times that around here. It's over at the Audubon Senior Center, and there are quite a lot of times that you can do before November 8th. And so we definitely encourage you to get out there, but there are many places throughout the community that will have early voting. I don't know, there was another thing, but I can't think of it.
Unless you want to start talking about Hanukkah.
Yeah, Hanukkah. Where are we going to be for Hanukkah? I heard we're going to Chelm. Yeah, you'll start seeing the announcements, but that's not till December. But we're going to have Hanukkah in Chelm. It's going to be fun. 6:25 for Adon Olam.
An oldie but a goodie. Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem go, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, B'chefso Kol, Azai Melech Shemon Dikra, Ve'acharei, Kitlot HaKol, Levad no Yimlok Nora, Ve'hu Haya, Ve'hu Haven, Ve'hu Yiyah, Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, B'chefso Kol, Azai Melech Shemon Nikra, Ve'hu Echad, Ve'yein Sheni, Lecham Shilo Lechachbira, B'li Reishi, B'li Tatit, Lo join with me. Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, B'chefso Kol, Azai Melech Shemon Nikra, Ve'hu Eli, V'chai Goali, V'tzorchev Li V'yitzara, Ve'hu Nisi, U'manosli, Minat Kosi, everyone. Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, B'chefso Kol, Azai Melech Shemon Nikra, B'yado, Avkidru Ki, B'yeti Sham B'yayira, Adonai li velo. Yes, time. Adon Olam, Hashem Malach, B'terem kol, Yitzir Nivra, Li'ed Nasa, B'chefso Kol, Azai Melech Shemon Nikra.
That's a really fun one.
That was written by my teacher,
Really?
Salzim.
Oh, yeah. We tried to get him here. One of these days we'll get him to Buffalo. Right?
I tried. It was
Wonderful music.
too much.
He does
I couldn't
he does
get it
that also.
fast.
L'dor v'ador, right?
Yes, Lador Vador, he wrote.
Sarah and Eli, would you like to come to lift our challah, and then you can take the challah home? Eli, in a couple of years, has his bar mitzvah, and he's coming over to get more familiar with the service. So wonderful to have them. And Eli is also a wonderful scout. So he's usually here for our scouting Shabbat, right? Mm-hmm. All right, why don't you lift that up? And then we'll say, and just take off the cover there. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. B'tei avon. As you came in peace, may you leave in peace. Please return your prayer book minus the leaflet to the front of the sanctuary, and that challah is yours. Take it home with you. Shabbat shalom. There is an oneg outside of cookies. We are going to go back to normal onegs pretty soon. We'll hopefully in the next couple weeks.